In the Newsroom is a production in partnership with Studio Stillwater. Every week, journalists from the Stillwater News Press invite listeners to join us in the newsroom and hear the story behind the stories. Hello and welcome to In the Newsroom. I'm Bo Simmons, editor of the Stillwater News Press. And today I'm joined by city editor Michelle Charles.
Hey.
Reporter Ashland Huffman.
Hello.
And publisher Kevin Shields.
Hello.
So, Kevin, let's start with you because we're going to kick you out of here before long. We've talked about housing a little bit, I think, on this program. And
oh, yes.
Yeah, and here you are sort of now looking hard through the Zillow files and the things of that nature. So I'd kind of wondered what it's like, from that perspective. Right now, you're just sort of looking for a rental, right?
Looking for basically anywhere to land.
Okay. So
it's probably the right way to put it.
So what is even the sort of big rental situation in Stillwater right now? If you're looking for places where you got to put three or four kids or something.
A lot of student stuff has hit the market.
Right.
Even on the house side of things. But, I mean, it's tight. It's very, very tight. And I thought it would be a lot more loose compared to where I came from, because it was just 16,000. But it's basically the same. It's been extremely difficult. But we got some good ones lined up today. My wife flew into town, and she's going to go take a look. And hopefully by the end of the day or by the end of the week, we'll have someplace to land on July 10th.
Very good.
And what was the last thing I think you looked into it, I think, for the magazine.
Yeah,
right?
for Progress Magazine.
For the Progress Magazine. But I mean, yes, it is. Housing's a little more harder to come by, right? And what we would have called starter homes in the past is almost non-existent, I think. But they were telling you there aren't that many homes on the market, right, in this area.
Lack of inventory is a big issue. I mean, it's just been a big issue for a while. Whether you're looking to buy, whether you're looking to rent, whatever. I mean, I think, Kevin, you're probably in a tougher spot because you're looking for family housing. And we do have that because we certainly have, with the university, we have faculty who come in and they don't want to live in a crappy little student rental. But at the same time, they don't know if they're going to get tenure. Maybe they're here temporarily. They need to rent. So there is a solid market for quality rental housing suitable for a family. Unfortunately, there's just not as much inventory. We do have a market where, because rent can be so expensive, you will have parents who buy a home for their child to live in while they go to college, and with the idea that you can have 3 or 4 roommates who basically cover the house payment. So it's actually a pretty good deal for people. And then they turn around and they sell it when they're done.
Or a lot of these things have turned into the rent per bedroom, which of course is
and that's
great.
A lot of what I've seen too.
Great for landlords because
it's where they're renting the whole thing out. But when you look at the pricing of it, it's more geared towards that situation.
Right.
Sure, it's like $450, $500 a bedroom,
and they're in places that you would normally not expect, or newness or finishes that you would not expect to normally be towards. Hey, let's have 4 frat guys live here. Or whatnot. You just wouldn't expect that. Right. So, but there are deals to be had. Just depends on how many years you're willing to sign on for. So, I mean, that's how we got the ones we looked today. I was like, I'm not paying X, but if I stay with you for 2 or 3, we do Y. And they've been very open to that.
There you go.
Because they also know, even with kids and a dog and whatnot, I'm probably going to take a little more pride and take a little more care of it than kids who have an 80-inch TV but a mattress on the floor.
Long-term professional adult renters, I would think, are probably very popular. And I think they probably definitely want to keep you. So if you can make a deal with someone, I'm sure it's just finding it in the first place. That's really a lot of the problem right now. It's just lack of inventory. We have a ton of new starts coming on, but they're not very far along yet.
Right. Building new homes is probably the space to be in right now.
Absolutely.
But I was the reason I was thinking about this, or what got me thinking about it, is during Biden's speech, which today is Wednesday, so his speech was yesterday to us, Tuesday, on the centennial of the Tulsa Race Massacre. He came armed with sort of a lot of like data and information that showed these, wealth gaps, different kind of disparities between Black Americans and other people. And one of the things he mentioned was that something like Black home ownership is at lower levels now than it was when they created the Fair Housing Act.
Wow.
So that got me thinking about housing, and even, I don't know if we don't look at those demographics really. I mean, we used to see, I think the chamber used to do, studies, I think, every year that sort of broke things down by demographics. But I kind of like to look at that stuff again, especially from a historic perspective of, rent.
Oh, yeah.
People who rent versus home ownership, what those percentages are now.
The census would be a wealth of information.
Yeah, we're ready
we can
for
go
that,
back
aren't
through
we?
some census
Well,
information.
isn't that like one of the first markets that people my age and older wanted to blame millennials for breaking?
Oh,
because they
housing?
weren't buying houses.
Yeah,
they were either if they were buying anything, they were buying like tiny homes or stuff like this. They were much more about travel and experiences.
I think that was the argument.
Yeah,
but
everybody was making that argument that the millennials didn't want to buy a house. They're just being, to me, they're just being smart. If you're young and single, why would you want to go, hey, I'm putting my flag down here and never leaving? That kind of model's been dead for a while.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case or just a couple of articles that ran in large, publications.
Right. Well, I would say it's especially wise to not necessarily invest if your employment isn't that secure. And let's face it, younger adults right now have not come of age in a world where you're going to go to work for a corporation and you're going to stay there for a good long time and work your way up. They have to move around, that sense that your employer will be there for you, that your job will continue to be there for you. I mean, it doesn't seem smart to tie yourself down and then have to worry about getting rid of a house.
Most definitely. But I think that goes both ways, too, because workers aren't loyal anymore.
Well, why would you be when your employer is going to let you go like that?
I think they're both kind of came to the acceptance that at the end of the day, I'm exchanging labor for cash, and if the cash is greener over here, I think it's been somewhat of a movement. I mean, we went through that god-awful McMansion type phase as a country where you'd be driving through the middle of a typical middle-class neighborhood and all of a sudden 5,000 square feet.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Yeah, with usually bright blue or bright green colors and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah. There's actually a whole, I think it's an Instagram account, where this woman just documents crimes against architecture. Okay. And it's just McMansions all over the place. But yeah, housing is, it's an ongoing issue. And in Stillwater, lack of inventory has been really big. They're very excited about having some starts, but not very far along. It's going to take a while. And of course, now construction costs are going up because of the materials. So we'll see if that slows down the process, if the builders just kind of wait to see if the materials drop, or if the houses just are 20% more expensive than they were going to be.
I've been told that is going into contracts of people who are building that based on lumber costs, based on this. So one of my big issues too, Bo, was I'm looking for almost like the 4-leaf clover, because I don't want a 3-bedroom. I want a 4 or more, but a 4. And those are rarer than you would think.
I think the most common would be a 3-2 in Stillwater.
Very much so.
You can find, over in certain areas of town, those big, rangy, kind of mid-century ranch houses with, I always call it the rumpus room, down in the basement. And around the college, they would take those and they would convert them into like a 6 or 8 bedroom house and cram as many college students in as they could. The neighborhood rebelled finally, and the neighborhood association marched on City Hall in matching T-shirts. That's the key to success. I can't emphasize that enough. And got a restriction. You can't have more than 3 unrelated people living in a house now. So some of those houses may be available because renting them may not be as profitable anymore.
Which maybe they skirt some of those things with the new leasing things.
If you have 3 siblings who are related, they count as one unit.
Ashlyn, we haven't heard from you. It's because you're not buying a home right now. But what are you working on?
Well, the story that will go out tomorrow is Stillwater is getting a women's and children's Oxford house opening up in July.
Oh, okay.
So
Very
Stillwater
good.
has one, but it's only
Explain
for
that.
men. So an Oxford house is supposed to help people with drug and alcohol addictions. And there's just a men's one, just a women's one, and then a women's and children. And
I have a question.
okay.
Would it be called is it similar to a sober living house? Is that the concept?
Yeah, that's what because it was started out of an Alcoholics Anonymous thing.
Okay.
And so I can't remember exactly where it started, but the first one I think was in 1957 or no, 1975. And
Well, how do people get into the program?
there is criteria you have to follow. You have to not be disruptive. You have to follow a recovery program. Like you have to be actively seeking recovery. You have to have employment, stuff like that. And the new Oxford house only houses 8 women.
Okay. Do people usually get referred there, or is it part of, like, it's not part of the penal system, is it?
No, it's not a part of that.
Okay.
I think it's separate from all of that.
Okay.
So the lady I spoke to, her name is Misty. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, so I'll just call her Misty. But she establishes different Oxford houses across the state. And she actually said she's received quite a bit of phone calls from women in our area seeking an Oxford house. And so they're opening up one in July.
Does it provide space for their children as well?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so she said the purpose of having a women's and children is because her words were that addiction doesn't stop just because you have a kid. And sometimes a mother is there because, she needs help with recovery and she needs a place for her and her child. So they're opening up a women's and children, which, this isn't the only women's and children Oxford house out there, but first one in Stillwater.
First one for Stillwater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
So,
there just aren't enough beds for treatment in general in
Yeah.
Oklahoma. Probably anywhere,
Yeah,
really.
the entire state.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said there's not a lot of options for women in general for these kind of things. Like I know Teen Challenge is for men. They don't have a women's. Like that was when I did the Teen Challenge story. They'd like to open up something for women. So
Well, usually it's an alternative in sentencing, and that's sort of, where, part of this comes from.
Right.
First, it used to take a felony, right, to even get people into drug court.
yeah.
And now I think they have, misdemeanor drug court.
Yeah,
So-
they have misdemeanor and felony drug court.
Well, and with Oxford
Yeah.
House, it's more of a home environment, right?
Yeah.
It's an actual house. The residents, do they, have, they kind of manage it together? Is there some kind of a structure there?
So it's built on structures and self-responsibility, 24-hour peer support, stuff like that. So it's like a sober living home is what I would call it. But, you have responsibility. And if you really all they say is, please don't come here high or drunk or anything like that. Seek recovery. Do you actually want to get the help? And if you do, then this is an option. So,
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
yeah, they're seeking donations for furniture, kitchen items, stuff like that. So if anybody, Misty said they really want to open it up and make the women feel like they're in a home. So.
Okay, so does that mean they haven't furnished it yet, or they?
They're in the process
Okay.
of furnishing it.
All right.
So they're just asking for donations.
A lot of people can manage that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this time of year, a lot of people are moving around and everything.
Yeah.
So this is a good time
And
to do
garage
that.
sales and stuff like that. So.
Michelle, you had mentioned something before we got on.
Okay, Stillwater Regional Airport is adding a second flight back.
Oh,
Which
okay.
is very
It had
exciting.
been since the first time since the pandemic reduced flights.
Yes, at
Oh,
one
okay.
point we were looking at in October. I talked to Paul Priegel, the airport director, and in October we were looking at potentially losing all of our flights, and
Losing the entire commercial aspect of
just shutting it down at least for
Yeah,
a while.
Right. Okay.
And people were afraid it wouldn't start back up if it ever shut completely down. So American Airlines committed to keeping at least one flight a day going. And they had an early morning flight and then a late night, that comes in and turns around the next morning. So basically one flight a day coming in. Amazingly enough, early on in the agreement with American Airlines, the city of Stillwater agreed to provide up to a certain amount of money if the airline wasn't filling the flights enough. That's gone away. So in the middle of this pandemic with, of course, the airlines got a little bit of assistance from the government. But in the middle of this pandemic, the city didn't have to pony up any cash to keep that flight going. So that was a pretty good thing. And now the numbers are, Paul said they're at about 75 to 80% capacity on the flight, which is pretty good. And so now they're adding back a second midday flight that'll come in around 2, turn around, leave about 2:30. And the whole idea is to allow people to travel for the summer to make their connecting flights.
And they had gotten they got up to 3 flights a day, right?
A couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago.
Right.
That's not summer, right? That's like during fall sort of heavier travel times.
No,
maybe?
Actually it was added. They added that third flight for the summer travel season.
Oh, the summer is the more when the flights pick up. Okay.
Now the fall and the rest of the year, business travel is really the bread and butter that keeps everything moving.
Right.
And keeps everything afloat. But they, for summer they added a third flight a couple of years ago. We're not nearly back at that point
right.
yet.
I mean, they were
that second midday flight.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, that was a time there were more people traveling, and they were talking about possibly another destination or two.
Exactly. People were getting very excited.
They were. Houston or Denver or Chicago or something like that. But
going to another hub.
Yeah,
we're not there yet, but you know what? We're getting closer to normal. And Paul said, you look at the parking lot, and it's getting more and more full. So things are starting to come back, and we're just glad to, as I said, to have kept the commercial air service, because that's been seen as a huge advantage for economic development. Heck, even for recruiting for OSU. I mean, so many entities, have found that it's a real advantage for people to be able to land right here in Stillwater and, be 5 minutes away from everything. So, anyway, so that's something to celebrate for sure.
Did you go on that inaugural flight? Was that?
I did.
I couldn't remember who did that.
I did.
Not the inaugural commercial flight.
Yes, I did. I was on
American.
that first flight to Dallas. I have a picture of myself. I took a selfie on top of the control tower at DFW Airport.
I've done the flight too. Kevin, I don't think you've flown in and out of here yet.
No, I've only flown out of OKC.
Yeah, but it is really interesting to get in a plane and be in the air for what feels like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And get back down and to be at the, Dallas.
It's so
airport.
Fast.
Yeah, it's really wild.
It's really funny because they barely have time. Like, they're pushing the cart down the aisle. They're like, here, have a drink, have some peanuts. And then they're like, on the way back, they're like gathering up the trash already. And then it's time to get ready to land. They barely have time to give you your snack.
Yeah. So
it's pretty quick.
I'd say if you look at it in terms of, now I just feel like I'm doing a PR pitch for them, but it is, but it is interesting. If you look at it in terms of like what they have available right now, you don't really worry much about paying for parking, and then you go in. You don't have a lengthy TSA security situation,
right?
And so you get on a plane, and then can go to Dallas and pretty much anywhere.
When they cut the flight schedule to one flight a day, one of the things they did was they tried to make it so that you could get as many connecting flights as possible. So the early morning flight leaves before 7 a.m. So you're in Dallas by 8 o'clock in the morning, so you can catch all your connecting flights wherever you're going to go. And then the last flight's been coming in at almost midnight. So that way, if you're coming into DFW, even later in the evening, you still have time to catch your flight and get to Stillwater before bed. So they did try to kind of maximize that in terms of the connections that would be available to you. Because if you just had one flight in the middle of the day, you're kind of hosing everybody, to be honest, because they've missed most of their flights or they're not going to get there in time to make that connection.
People used to come to Stillwater for our big events. We haven't had a few of those, but we're getting them back.
We are.
This is the segue. Everyone who's playing along at home. Ashland found out that they're going to have Juneteenth again. This year is going to be the first Juneteenth in a little while, right? I think it's been a few years. Definitely nothing happened last year. And then we've had some other attempts at a citywide celebration that have sort of turned into things that, I don't know. Let's be honest. They weren't Juneteenth. I mean, they weren't specifically.
The city
It
tried.
was just, we've had things that sort of coincided with that date, but
they already had the Red Dirt musicians booked. It
So
was
it's been a
just
while.
not a thing.
Yeah. What you spoke with Karen Washington, right? Who
Yeah,
is one of the organizers.
Yeah, she's super excited about it. She has this idea of getting to know your neighbor. So basically stepping out of your normal comfort zone, your group, your friends, family that you hang out with, and get to know somebody in Stillwater that you don't. Because her thing was, if you don't know me and I don't know you, how can we understand each other's history and why we do the things we do? And she wanted the community to come to the Juneteenth because it's history. It's not just her history, it's all of our history. And so she was very excited about having the community come out, and there's going to be a lot of activities, games, possible food trucks. They haven't decided what food trucks would be there, but a lot of games and getting to know your neighbor type of scenarios.
Well, we know we can't have it across the street.
Yeah, if you don't want to have a mud festival, you can't have it at Block 34 right now. We could have a big mud volleyball tournament or something. But that would be
Southern
about
Woods
it.
Park. That's
Southern
what
Woods
it is.
Park, you got to
Yeah.
start.
Very good.
You gotta
11
start
to
time
2
there.
p.m.
11 to 2
on
p.m.
June 19th.
Right.
And
What day does June 19th fall this year? Is that a Saturday?
It is a Saturday.
Okay.
Saturday.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, so people can
As
bring
luck
their
would
own
have it.
lunches as well, but if you don't want to bring your lunch, they will have food trucks available.
Like that. So,
So.
and she's even got this sort of reconciling with history theme that would just sort of become our theme this year, hasn't it?
I think
Oklahoma.
so.
Yeah.
I think so. Actually, that's where they had Juneteenth for a lot of years, back when it was just sort of a neighborhood celebration. The Southern Woods neighborhood is a traditionally African-American neighborhood in Stillwater back during segregation. That's where a lot of businesses were located, where the school was located, Washington School. And the park was put there kind of in the middle of that neighborhood. But, there are basketball courts. Now we, of course, have a splash pad, so it's a great place to have a festival. The splash pad will be open. The kids can go over there and play. But I remember going down there to take photos or to cover it years and years ago when it was just kind of a smaller neighborhood thing. And you'd have ladies out. They'd have a big boom box and they'd have ladies out line dancing on the basketball court and stuff. It was actually a pretty good time. Grills going everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, good thing to check out.
Another thing, we're getting back in our post-pandemic. I think our numbers, it's odd though. We've been seeing a lot of, on the COVID numbers, a lot of more and more of those, what was the word for the deaths that weren't counted? But I can't
Oh, the
think of it now.
provisional?
Provisional, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we've sort of like come close to that now where we went from 4,000 to 7,000.
Yeah.
And so newer deaths that people who they've decided died from COVID, the state had decided enough thorough inspection was done on the cause of death that now they count them.
But it's weird
that
because it makes
everyone
it look
else
like
is
you have new deaths.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it. But so Stillwater was up to 40 deaths and Payne County around 70-some. But something like 9 active cases and 1,000 active cases in the entire state.
Yeah, I mean, it's
so it's
hardly
really
anything.
wild to imagine that we're at this point when this time last year it was
Crazy.
locked down, right?
Yeah.
Were we still locked down June 1st? I can't remember. What?
No. Well, because the protests happened in May, right?
Well, our cases had not exploded.
Yeah,
here
and so I
until
think
until
things
the
got a
fall.
little bit
But
lax.
we were shut down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a strange year.
What else? How we on time? Anybody?
I think we're closing in on it.
Yeah.
Dipping out.
Dipping out.
Ashland's piecing out on us.
What else? What are we working on? What is you got stuff coming up?
Oh,
you got some stuff for our interns.
Yes, actually, the interns are here, guys. This is
Yeah.
exciting. We're always excited about the interns. It's our favorite season.
We got 2 of
Intern
them.
season. We got 2.
That's right.
Sam is doing a lot of stuff on sports, obviously. And then we've got Chase, who I just got to meet today. And he loves features. and I had several ideas for features that I wasn't going to be able to get to, so I'm super excited about this. He's going to be working on some stuff for Pride Month. He's going to be, I think he's starting with a story about the Duncan Theater, the reopening of the Duncan Theater. It was like this classic old movie theater in downtown Cushing that shut down, and local business people, a family, bought it, have remodeled it, opened it as a first-run movie theater and a music venue. Really exciting, and opening up also a pizzeria and tap room.
Did they
next door to it?
Did they get anything based on the earthquake? Were they able to? This earthquake was a while ago. Kevin's looking at us like, yeah, we have earthquakes here whenever the oil industry ramps back up. Just so you
my
know.
15-year-old
Yes.
made a point that it's the most active seismic state in
well,
the country.
Yeah,
It was pretty rough.
whenever,
for a while.
it's like if we ever see oil going up above like $60-$70 a barrel again, then they're going to start pumping that stuff out of the ground again and injecting the wells again. That's when we're going to get a little more activity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think they actually got anything from there as far as the earthquake damage. They did get some economic development money from Payne County, which is kind of nice.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, they got some assistance there to do that, because they had to bring a bunch of things up to code. With old buildings, when you start tearing things out, you just find problems and things that you have to bring up to code. So it just always turns out to be a lot more expensive than you expect and to take longer, which this did, but I think it's probably totally worth it. And the people in Cushing are super excited to have this going on in downtown. This is going to be, I believe, seen as kind of the linchpin for a potential revitalization of downtown Cushing. And they're working on a plan with the urban planning department, I think, at OU. To help come up with a plan to bring that up. We'll see what all happens with it. But for right now, we're super excited about the Duncan Theater. I can't wait to go see it.
Yeah, it is a nice little plaza there too. Like it's not just the theater. They've sort of a few other things have sprung up around there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it'll be pretty cool. So anyway, Chase is working on that. And then we had a local who was on American Ninja Warrior, and he's going to follow up on that too.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of exciting, right?
Yeah. We always like it when we have
ninjas in Stillwater.
Yeah.
That's the thing about ninjas, Kevin, is you can't see them, so we don't know where they are.
They truly could be anywhere.
I was gonna say like we always have these like sort of viral things, and like we were talking yesterday, we have our kid who was learned to dance here,
Slavic,
and ended up on one of the
so you think you can dance,
and now he's a TikTok famous person.
Yes.
So
he's a dancer. He's like what do you call it? Like pop and lock? I don't know. Is that even a thing anymore? I'm behind.
I think so.
Yeah. It's that kind of thing.
I
he's
think
like
that's what he's doing.
Popper or a locker. I don't know. I'm going after the dance community, Kevin. That's who I'm going to make mad this week.
Poppers and lockers.
Yes.
But not both. Oh, both.
I think he can do it all.
Yeah.
I think he can do it all.
Oh.
Anyway, Slavic. He's still around and he's still doing some cool stuff. I saw a video with him in it the other day.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think we have anything else to do here. I think we'll let Kevin and Ashlyn get back to actual work. Their actual day jobs. And Ashlyn's ready. She's not even going to say bye. She's just like,
wow, I didn't know we were supposed to.
Bye. No, all right, okay.
See ya.
So, we're going to take a 2-week hiatus.
Yes, we are.
Bum, bum, bum.
We're taking a break, guys.
Yep.
We should probably introduce Chris.
We sent Ashlyn and Kevin away, and now Chris is here to discuss some of the other projects and to let everybody know that in the newsroom, but the other stuff too is going to be like, we're not going to be here for 2 weeks. What would you say a good return date is for us? Anybody?
We will have this one out, which is being recorded on June 2nd. So it will come out and it'll come out the 7th. Then the 14th, there will not be in the newsroom. And then I guess the 21st too.
Basically, we'll be back around the last week of June.
Yep. But yeah, no, got to go work at Oklahoma Free Will, where my buddy Trevor. So if you didn't know, Oklahoma Free Will is run right here in Stillwater. They kind of acquired the event under the company called No Drop Tours.
Okay.
And so Trevor Stewart and his wife Elizabeth.
Now, are they here in Stillwater?
They are here in Stillwater.
Okay.
She is actually the children's librarian at the library. So that's her main gig.
Nice.
And then he does this. And so I'm going to be driving a big old pickup truck with the trailer across the state of Oklahoma supporting bicycle riders.
So where is the start point for Free Will this year?
What's your route? I'm kind of curious.
The route starts actually in Texas this year. Usually they pick a border town and then you can like ride to the border and then back. But this is actually starting in Vernon, Texas, coming up through, oh gosh, let me pull up the route.
So you're going to
that's
go
fine.
so you're basically going to go all the way through Oklahoma. Are they going up into Kansas or almost to Kansas?
Yes, going all the way across the border to Ark City.
Oh, okay. So
City,
in our
Kansas.
neighborhood, a little bit north, just straight north of here.
I think the next to last day stop is actually in Perry.
Okay. That was my next question, is if we're going to be seeing bicyclists.
Oh, if you're on a stop, does that mean they can spend money there? Is Perry going to get, or is there?
That's the
anything?
idea.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
camp out. So usually have a couple hundred riders.
Are they going to camp on the square?
I
Perry?
believe so, actually.
Okay.
You can go to, I think it's OK Free Will or NoDropTours.com. But the route starts in Vernon, then heads to Frederick, Oklahoma, then up to Medicine Park, Hinton, Kingfisher, Perry. So the biggest gap is going from Kingfisher to Perry, and then from Perry to Blackwell, then to Ark, Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay, so they're going to stay west of I-35 for a lot of it, it sounds like.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
So I'm gonna go there, and then I'm gonna bring the podcast equipment and see if we can record some rider stories. A lot of those people, I mean, they've been riding the same event 20, 30 years.
That would be really cool.
And I mean, you kind of ride your bike, finish the ride, drink a bunch of beers, tell a bunch of stories. So we'll see if I can capture some of those stories.
That sounds like
Out
a good
in the
time.
wild.
Mm-hmm.
Veritas.
Yeah.
So I just want to let you guys know why In the Newsroom has to take a little break. And you guys, I mean, I guess now won't know what's going on in Stillwater. You'll have to read the newspaper.
Oh, darn.
And then also how much I appreciate Bo, Michelle, Kevin, Tanner when he was on, and Ashland, and just, committing to this thing and making it real. And to all the listeners, too, for downloading and listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for listening to us ramble.
Well, that's interesting because, we announce a hiatus. That means we've actually been back every week and we haven't missed a week. Like, that's what kind
Correct.
of what that means to
Exactly.
me. It's like, wow.
We've been consistent.
Wow, not bad.
This June 2nd was the 14th episode.
Oh, that's good.
Well, what outside of our newsroom network, what do you guys got going on? We'll cross promote some of your other things.
Well, we're working still on a foster care series. We've interviewed some people that have been in foster care, some experts that have been basically in the field for decades,
Right.
and we're still trying to get some interviews with some foster care parents, get their perspective,
Right.
and then after we get those recorded, kind of see how it turns out, if it's going to be a episodic series or if it's maybe a little bit more editorialized, where we might kind of blend some things together to kind of share the overarching story of what it is like to be in foster care in Oklahoma.
Yeah, we've got some ideas for ways to maybe make it a little bit more produced than
Right,
some
so
of the
you're
other
just
things
trying
we've
to
done.
Craft it like
Yeah, exactly.
something
Craft
you
more
would
of a
hear.
narrative.
So you introducing clips and whatnot. Like
Yes.
what is it, NPR, things like that.
Yes,
We'll go
yes.
for
I
it.
do dearly love it.
I'm not trying to like compare you to other things. So
That's okay. That's
that-
okay. If you had to
but
compare me to anything.
I think we
Okay.
talk too loud for NPR. They're always so
I'm not
meant-
sure.
nice and
I'm not sure about
quiet and
that.
pleasant.
Yes. But so that's a big thing. And then, of course, the podcast that we originally called Studio Stillwater, where we focused on the local elections. We haven't done anything with that in a little while. We're probably going to be rebranding that as Grassroots, just a little heads up there, because Studio Stillwater is actually becoming more of a podcast network.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really exciting development.
Yeah, kind of our idea is to let kind of the Studio Stillwater feed, and I guess listeners, if this is something you're like, oh, don't do that, send us a message, but where we can kind of introduce new shows, new series, allow other people to come in that are like, I've always wanted to do a podcast. I think I've got a good idea, and then we can actually help them, produce it. And then for the feed, kind of test that out. Let them just kind of plant that seed, see if the content and all that stuff is compelling. And then as it grows, like I imagine in the newsroom at some point will need its own feed. So if somebody's like, I love In the Newsroom, all the other stuff that's going on Studio Stillwater, maybe it's not for me, and I'm just going to subscribe to In the Newsroom. So you can kind of have some that might graduate into their own feed,
right?
But kind of do it all organically. It's just kind of how it feels, how the customer base is responding, or the listenership,
right.
I guess.
Well, and also your feed can get kind of messy, because if you have, say, 4 different podcasts and they're all in the same feed, and you have to dig through that to find the episode that you want, that gets to be kind of inconvenient. So if you can have everything on its own feed where it's easy to find, and then we still have Studio Stillwater as like the umbrella, maybe we have the Studio Stillwater website where you can go to access all of these.
Yeah.
That's the idea. That's what we're growing toward.
Yeah. Still
to make
early.
it as easy as possible.
Contact one of you if somebody has an idea for a podcast.
Absolutely.
There's got to be 1,000 ideas out there, right?
I would think
We've
so.
had 1,000 ideas.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean, heck, we have 2,000 ideas. There's 2 of us.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Trying to strike gold. We're panning for
Exactly.
gold here.
we are.
Yeah.
No,
we are.
we've had some folks reach out with some ideas for to see if we can help them. So we're working with some different people, and so hopefully it'll all kind of work out, and listeners will be hearing something new soon.
And if somebody wants to reach out to us, then Studio Stillwater OK at Gmail.
Studio Stillwater OK at Gmail. All right.
.com.
And the business podcast, is that a weekly, or are they trying to do that monthly?
Our Town.
Bo is trying to just tease it out.
Yeah.
That
Well,
journalist.
We're working on it right now, and we're trying to figure that out.
We got what they call one in the hopper.
Oh, I see.
We got one in the hopper.
Just hope it works out. It's
Boy, we do too.
Boy, howdy.
Right? We're growing something here, folks. It's
Yep.
kind of scary, but
Yeah.
it's cool. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it. So we'll see you guys in a few weeks.
Yep.
All right. And thank you, Chris. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you to our listeners for joining us in the newsroom. Thank you for joining us in the newsroom. Look for Studio Stillwater wherever you find your podcasts. Find archived episodes on stwnewspress.com.